All right, let's come to standing. We'll just do like a little mobilizing. Let's do some like wrist circles here. Just little infinity figure eights. I'm just kind of starting to connect them with your breath. Notice, are you breathing? And then reverse this and how you're breathing. Just kind of checking in with how you feel like you're standing. So maybe where the weight is in your feet, if your knees are locked, if your ribs feel like they're kind of behind you. And let's shake those out. And let's do some shoulder circles. So cute. These are my friends. You guys can be my friends too. Haven't had a chance to get to know each other yet. And we'll circle forward here. Nice. And we'll do one at a time, circling back, and just let your chest rotate a little. So we're not really like overthinking this movement. We're just like checking in, noticing how the body is moving today or how it isn't moving. And then let's reverse that. We'll circle forward. Nice. And then when you finish your last one, let's just start with a little roll down. So bring your feet a little closer underneath your sits bones. And we're just going to nod the chin, let the crown of your head fall towards the ground. You can bend the knees if you need. At the bottom, maybe take like a little knee bend from side to side, maybe relaxing the head with a little shake of the head no or a shake of the head yes. And then push through the feet, roll the spine all the way back up. We're just going to reach the arms overhead, really big stretch. So try to find some space between your armpits and your hips, and then we'll do that again. So easy roll down. And as you're rolling down, notice if the weight tends to shift into the heels or if the knees start to lock, and see if you can soften them and bring the weight a little bit more evenly distributed through the feet. And then we'll push up again, starting to lift the abs, pushing through the heels. Nice big sweep, maybe looking up. And let's do one more like that. So tucking the chin, you'll follow your legs with your eyes here as you come into that forward fold. Again, if you want to play with a little movement at the bottom, find that even weight through your feet, push all the way up. And then when we reach our arms overhead here, let's step a little wider. We're just going to take a really easy side stretch. So you can take one wrist and side bend over and then switch. Nice big breath. We're just finding some space between your ribs and your hips. If you like to arch here, see if you can soften the ribs a little bit. You'll get a little bit more out of that side bend. And last one like this. So you can drop your arms here. We'll do a little twist. So we're just going to twist nice and easy. Let everything rotate. So ankles, knees, try to look behind you. Or you'll get a little bit more out of that rotation if your eyes are participating. And we'll do one more each way. And then we'll do a wide leg forward fold. So we'll just roll all the way back down. You can do a little shift with your hips. So just shifting your weight from side to side. It's okay if your knees bend, relaxing the head here. And then depending on where you're facing, we're gonna come down to hands and knees. So I'm gonna do a little twist here to the side so you guys can see. So we'll come to all fours. So wrists underneath your shoulders and hips stacked over your knees. We're gonna do a little shoulder blade isolation. So I'm gonna let my chest fall through my arms. Right shoulder blades are retracted, pinched together here, and then I'm gonna push away and create some space so ribs come to the ceiling. And just play with that movement. So plugging and unplugging. And notice if the pelvis can just kind of stay relatively unaffected. Obviously it's connected, but see if you can keep that motion just in the shoulder blades. And then try to find middle. So we're gonna go into that nice neutral place in between. And then we're gonna do a little bit of cat-cow just with the pelvis. So I'm gonna scoop my abs in, gently tucking the pelvis. And then you're gonna lengthen your tailbone, opening the sits bones. You can imagine if you had like a little puppy tail, it's gonna tap your head here. And then you're gonna curl your puppy tail under to tap your belly button. And again, we're just isolating that pelvic movement. So seeing how much we've got in both directions. And now we get to combine them. So we'll come into a full cat-cow. So now you're gonna press away. So here's my protraction as I scoop my abs, gazing towards the inner thighs. And then extending the chest forward. Little retraction and opening the sits bones. Nice. And just smooth breath here. So again, not really overthinking our breath just yet. Getting a little bit of isometric work in the shoulders. Let's do one more round like this. Nice. And then you're gonna pause in neutral. So crown of my head and tailbone are reaching in opposition. I'm gonna stabilize through my right leg and my left arm. And I'm gonna come into either bird dog with my toes and fingertips on the ground, or I'm gonna float all the way up. And just hold for a breath. And then I'm going to bring it back down and switch sides. So as we do these, we'll do one breath cycle kind of per side. We need to think a little bit more about your supporting system. So we're trying to keep the shoulder from sinking, or rather ear sinking into the shoulder, or your supporting hip falling out to the side, low back arching. So a little bit more focus on pushing out of the ground, keeping that supporting hip in. Yeah, nice. One more each way here, so we'll even ourselves out. Keeping the back of the neck nice and long, gazing just in front of your fingertips. And then we'll cross the ankles, we'll come to our bum. Now we get to add the ball, more excitement. Take a little windshield wiper. So for more support, you can do hands behind, or for a little bit more challenge, you can float the hands up. So just kind of checking in. Are my thighs able to mobilize in both directions? Feet a little further apart and a little wider. Can be a little easier if you're feeling tight in one direction. And then hands behind too is a nice strategy. And then we'll come to half rollbacks. Now we get to play with the ball. So kind of the theme is the ball today. So you're gonna bring that ball in between your inner thighs. So we're gonna try to sit up as much as possible. Tricky, you might need to walk your feet a little further out, and you can always flex the feet if it helps to sit up, right? We're gonna hold onto the backs of the thighs to start. And we're just gonna roll the pelvis back. So easy, roll back off your sits bones, take a nice breath in, and then we're gonna exhale, squeeze the ball, find a little crunch and curl back up. So if you imagine your pelvis is like a bowl of water, it's nice and stacked. We're gonna spill the water back. And then as we come back up, we're righting that bowl of water. So this articulation goes from my pelvis, moving away from my thighs. And then here's my little crunch, upper abs, squeezing that ball. And then I'm curling. So it's almost like ribs and then hips to come back up. If this feels okay, get rid of the hands, right? So this is just gonna be a little bit more challenging. Your inner thighs will help. So on that exhale, as you curl up, you can give that ball just a little bit of a squeeze of shoulders lift. See if you can relax those guys. We'll challenge this a little more. So we're gonna roll back. Find a place where you feel like you can stay without flattening through your low back. So we're gonna keep that C curve. Just your right arm is gonna open out to the side. Nice, and then come back to center, and then just your left arm. And so you'll notice maybe a tendency to try to twist, or what we see a lot is a rib shift. So see if you can stay really stable by squeezing that ball as you reach out, and choose a place where you feel like you can stay. So it's probably gonna be a little higher than your max roll back that you just had a moment ago. Yeah, let that shoulder blade really slide. So you just warm those guys up in your hands and knees position. Let's do one more to the right and one more to the left. Nice. Last one here. And then you can come forward. Take that ball out for a second. We'll do a couple of cat cows with a butterfly. So whatever distance feels most comfortable, you're gonna grab your ankles, and we're gonna basically kind of hang on our own bones. So I'm gonna round my spine back, nice little stretch. You can tuck your chin for a little bit more of a spine stretch. And then we'll roll forward on our sits bones, pull with your elbows, and then lift your sternum. And just try two more like that, nice little. So can your pelvis move, not just your low back? Nice, and then roll your pelvis back up. And just one more here. Those hip flexors a moment. And we're gonna come right back into half roll back again. So this time we're gonna do ball behind your low back. So you're gonna roll back just a little. This one's a little tricky. You wanna make sure that you feel like your back is still in a C curve. And it might feel like you already are in a little bit of ab work. Once you're there, that's usually a good sign. Then we're gonna do some arm scissors. So again, find that retraction. You're gonna sweep one arm up and one arm down, and then switching sides. Just exhale through the effort. It's kind of typically, I don't cue a ton of detailed breath. Smooth breath is always really good, but exhaling through the hard part is pretty helpful. Easy to extend in your upper abs. So you're gonna think about curling those upper abs down and allowing the shoulder blades to move. Nice. Let's challenge this after you do one more to the left, and we're gonna do both arms at the same time. So we'll sweep both arms up and then bring those arms back down. Yeah, easy exhale. Think of crunching when you reach your arms up. So you're really allowing some freedom. Shoulder blades can move, nice. Try to keep those arms relatively straight so that we're getting the movement from the shoulders. Yeah, nice, exactly, versus just bending the elbows. All right, last one. And then you can curl forward, We'll take that ball out. We're gonna do a little leg version. So you're gonna roll back. I promise we'll leave this soon. You're gonna roll back. We're gonna try with our arms supporting. We're gonna try bringing our knee up towards our chest without losing that C curve in our spine. And then we're gonna lower back down. So kind of a teaser prep. Yeah, and if this feels groovy, you can let go, right? So obviously no hands is a little bit more work. Nice deep hip, deep core. See if your leg starts to spin into external rotation, if you can keep it pretty neutral here. If this feels okay, you can add a twist. So I'm gonna twist to where my opposite shin, I'm gonna touch my opposite shin with my opposite arm and then come back to center. Yeah, lovely, nice. We'll do some teaser later, exhaling to twist. Can you stay equally weighted? So as we add rotation, we tend to shift away. See if you can sink into the hip, the direction that you're moving. So if I go to the right, we'll do one more each way. I'm gonna sink a little more into my right hip. Go to the left, I'm gonna sink a little more into my left hip. Wee, all right, and then you can take that ball, roll all the way down onto your back. We'll give our hips a little break here. So walk your feet out a little wider. Close to the bum, we're gonna flex the feet. You're gonna press up into a shoulder bridge. So I'm just gonna lift my hips. Think of stacking your knees over your heels and then soften through your sternum. So we'll say like base of shoulder blade stays on the mat. We're just gonna hold for a couple breaths here. Just activating the posterior chain, letting the front of your hips open up for a moment. And then just melting your ribs down onto the mat, one vertebrae at a time. And let's do that one more time. So flexing the feet, pushing through the heels, float those hips up. So we're looking for hip extension, but not rib extension. So you can always take a little kind of tactile pat, check in with those floating ribs, and then melt your spine all the way back down onto the mat. Nice. Okay, so we're gonna go into toe taps. If you don't have a ball, no big deal. Or you can opt to do this without. I like the ball feedback. So we're gonna put the ball under the bum. And you want it not under the low back, but really pretty solidly under your bum here. We're gonna come into a slight imprint position. So for Pilates, this is our flat back position, right? And we're creating that by using our core. So I'm taking my hips and my ribs and I'm gently drawing my ribs and hips together. If you had that bowl of water, you're gently spilling that water towards your chest. My test here is I'm gonna float one leg to tabletop, my 90-degree bent position. If anything's changed, so if my back arches and my ribs pop, right, then I know I've lost that imprint position. So I'm gonna try to maintain that, maybe hands on core, just to give yourself a little feedback. I can lower that leg down and try the other side. So start with a couple marches here. As we go into extension, as we lower that foot down onto the ground, that's kind of where the core work is turned up a little bit more. If this feels okay, you can float one leg to tabletop and then bring your second leg to meet it. So a little more unstable. We'll exhale as we tap. So I'm gonna keep that 90-degree bend through my knee. I'm gonna tap one toe down towards the ground. Nice, and then exhale to switch sides. Now maybe you don't quite tap, right? Even just reaching the thigh away at all is gonna challenge that imprint position. If you wanna make it harder, try floating your arms to the ceiling. Yeah, and that's a nice way to give yourself a little more work here. So this is our oblique work, anti-rotational, anti-side bending. Maybe arms float overhead by the ears, just hovering over the ground. So now we're challenging those upper abs a little bit more. If you want more still, you can start tapping a little further away. Check in with your supporting leg. So if that supporting leg starts to maybe rotate or fall out to the side, it's gonna affect that working side. So it's just gonna make it a little bit harder to stabilize. And let's all go for one more each way. And then we'll carefully lower one leg at a time back down onto the mat. You can lower your second leg, lift your hips, and then you're gonna pop that ball in between your thighs. So we'll go into some more imprint, but we'll work kind of the upper abs a little bit here. So you're gonna clasp your hands behind your head, and then we'll curl up. So I'm gonna come into that same imprint position, right? So my back's flat, my pelvis is slightly posteriorly rotated. I'm gonna curl up on an exhale and gaze just above my knees. And then I'm gonna lengthen down in like 2 counts. So we're gonna inhale, really nice and slow, controlled inhale. As you lower back down, keep your back connected to the mat. So we'll do a couple like that. So we'll exhale to float up, and then inhale, lengthening away without letting that back arch. And exhaling, supporting the head. You can have the elbows a little closer to the ears if you're feeling tight through the shoulders or the chest. And then see if you can come up, really noticing that your weight, as you curl up, your weight's going to increase through the mid back. We can get really into like chin and neck doing a lot of work. So kind of in your mind's eye, imagine sort of pre-engaging those upper abs to keep the floating ribs from popping here. We'll make it a little more exciting after this next one. So we'll add some choreography. We're going to exhale to come up on the next one. You're going to inhale to reach for the backs of your thighs. You get to use your arms. You're going to curl yourself up even higher, right? Higher than I could maybe without. Take a breath in here. You're going to exhale, reach your arms back behind your head, but keep your height. And then we'll inhale to lower all the way back down nice and slow. So we'll just do a couple of these guys. So you'll exhale to lift, inhale to reach, and exhale to pull. Take a nice breath in. If you want to make this harder, you can reach your arms wider for that exhale, and then you'll inhale and lengthen all the way back down. And we'll just take 4 more like this. So exhale to lift, inhale and exhale to pull. Nice little breath into challenge. If you need more support, you can tuck a little sooner, and then you can lengthen to roll it back down. 3 more here. Exhale to lift. If the feet want to come up, right, then that's as far as we're going to go. Squeeze that ball a little bit more so you can get a little more inner thigh versus hip flexor. Nice. Last 2. Inhale and exhale to curl up. And then sweep those arms around. Last one here. Exhaling to lift. Inhale and exhale, little ball squeeze. Inhale to challenge. Exhale, sweep those arms around. Nice. You can lower all the way down. We'll keep the legs where they are, just checking in to make sure the feet are a little closer to the bum. So it'll be more glute and hamstring, a little closer, more hamstring if your feet are further away. We're going to do an articulated bridge. So I'm going to roll up. So I'm going to go through that imprint position that I just worked to lift the hips up. And then I'm going to melt my spine back down onto the mat, 1 vertebrae at a time. If you tend to kind of grip through the shoulders, arms up is a great strategy too, just to get you out of that. So working the articulation, think of peeling your spine off the mat and melting your spine back down versus pressing to lift. So we're just trying to recruit the core a little bit more here as we take these even length through both sides, right? Even weight through both feet. That seems pretty obvious, but I'll mention it. Nice. Let's meet up on this next one. So we'll stay at the top. You're going to take a nice breath in. We're going to break at the hip joint and lower the bum maybe 2 inches, and then squeeze and press the hips up. So it's a little pulse, break and lift. Again, hands can be up towards the ceiling, arms can be down by the side. So always less surface area, it's going to be a little more unstable. So that's a good way to challenge it, is just take away any of those limbs. Nice, let's go for 3. Watch that we don't get too high in the ribs for 2. And then pause on the next one. So a little kind of form check here. We're going to sweep the right arm out to the side to a hover, and then draw that arm back up, and then sweep that left arm out to the side. And we're just trying to stay stable through center. So again, here's allowing my shoulder blade to move without taking my whole spine with it. Nice little isometric work through your glutes. And some oblique work. We'll do 1 more each way, so 1 more to the right here. And 1 more to the left. Yeah, nice, you guys. And then you can sweep your arms all the way overhead. Just let your arms rest on the ground, and then melt your spine all the way back down. You can take that ball out, walk your feet a little wider, and then take a little knee swipe here from side to side. We'll roll to one side. Doesn't matter which side, as long as you feel like you can see me. And we'll go into a little side glute work. So we'll take the ball. We're going to pop it behind the knee. Oh yeah, yours is very deflated. You know, different levels, different challenges. So whatever's most comfortable for your head, you can kind of bend the elbow and rest, or you can go long arm if you've got an extra prop that feels good. We're going to lengthen the tailbone away. So you just want to make sure that we're not in a tuck here, knees a little further from your hips. We're going to squeeze the ball, and we're just going to float that leg up. And so we're thinking about kind of where that swimsuit line would be, right? That crease where my hips folding into my hip socket. This is where the movement's coming from versus my waist. So hand on hip can be helpful to give yourself a little feedback. Yep, and a bonus hamstring. Or also sometimes it depends on what costume you're wearing if your pants are really slippery. And then a little bit of bottom oblique action happening here. If you have any knee pain in this flexion, you can always ditch the ball and just do this with a lift. So we'll pause at hip height on this next one. We're gonna break at the hip joint, so a little hinge forward, reach that tailbone away, and then you're gonna sweep the front of the hip open and reach the leg back. And the idea is, right, if I need more support, I can always have a hand down. We just wanna keep the trunk really stable. So a lot of times our ribs tend to reflect the motion. So we're gonna, again, go to that oblique strength as you swing forward and backwards. Opening up the front of the hip, right? My glute and hamstrings doing that work to reach back. We feel some glute and hamstring yet? We'll pause at center. So neutral, we're gonna do external and internal rotation. So I'm gonna use my outer hip to press my knee up, foot goes down, then I'm gonna allow my knee to go down and my foot to go up. Nice, yeah, and for internal especially, sometimes it's just allowing the movement to happen more than anything. So we're used to usually using a little bit more external rotation. Nice. If it starts to get kind of gunky here, find some length through your tailbone and a little bottom oblique. Yeah, nice. Next time you're in, we're gonna stay in internal rotation. Find that spot where your thigh and your hip meet. You're gonna pulse, little pulses up. Wee. And then usually our leg will start to rotate out because internal kind of stinks. So just keep refreshing your internal rotation. Yes, we found some bum. And then you can take a little rest, lengthen that leg out. So nice. Okay, the inevitable. Let's do side two. I'm gonna flip this way. You can totally roll over since you guys know what's happening. If you want to take advantage of the mirror, by all means, that's a nice option. So same, but different. Side two. So once you're in your nice stack, we'll start with that float up and down. So if knee doesn't love this, right? If it's too much flexion, ditch the ball. Still gonna be good. You just get a little extra here. If we start to draw the leg towards the head versus up to the ceiling, we might start to shorten on the top side. So you can think about just drawing your bottom oblique in a little bit more. And remember, this is abduction versus external rotation. So it's kind of what we're like tidying up, teaching our brain to body connection. What's the difference between moving away from center and neutral versus turning out? Second side might be a little more tired. Let's float up here. We'll pause in neutral. We're gonna break at the hip joint and swing the knee forward and then open the front of the hip and sweep the leg back. And just see if you can stay stable. So lots of attention to those obliques. For more support, you can have right fingertips down. For less, maybe bring that arm up. Your supporting hips working here too, right? You can feel it more, I think, on the second side usually, once you've worked it a bit. Nice. Okay, pause in neutral. We're gonna do your turn out, turn in. So it's a press that brings my knee up to the ceiling and my foot down. And then I'm allowing for that internal rotation in the opposite direction. And just noticing the hips, right, might start to move like front to back a little bit, or the ribs might reflect this. So see if you can just isolate that thigh moving in the hip socket. And just notice if there's a different range from side to side. Do one more and then we'll do our little pulses. How are our bums? Okay, so you're gonna turn in, find that spot, that little crease between your hip and your thigh, and we'll just pulse up. What's nice about the ball here is that it's really gonna come from your hip socket. Sometimes this one gets a little wonky where we just bend and extend our knee. And then just keep turning it in as the body tries to avoid it. Go for 3, 2, last one, and then you can lengthen that leg away. Freedom, nice. Let's roll into our front. So for first extension, let's just do some little baby lifts. We won't do anything. We'll do like some flying squirrel. So for flying squirrel, legs apart, legs together, whatever's kind of your happy place. But we'll kind of highlight just rolling the shoulder blades onto the spine. So your whole arm is externally rotating. And I'm just taking a nice little hover, nice breath in. And then as you exhale, just rest one cheek to the ground. And we'll just take maybe like, depending on how fast you're going, 6 to 8 of these. We won't do a million.
Just connecting with the same little
retraction action. And I'm not
looking too far in front because I want my cervical spine to reflect that.
If the knees bend, see if you can reach the legs a little straighter.
So instead of kind of driving through the front of the hip, we're getting those glutes to turn on a little more.
And I'm not counting, but I'm going to take one more. So feel free to take
no more or a couple more.
And then we'll take a little child's pose here. So you can bring your hands back, knees together or wide, whatever feels better for you. And just take a couple breaths. We'll go for like 3 rounds of breath in this child's pose. Or if you have something else that you enjoy that's equally oppositional in your low back. Nice, and then just supporting yourself here. Walking back up. So we'll do a little hands and knees. We're gonna do some same side bird dog because we don't do it a ton. So we don't need our ball for this one. So to start with this guy, we're just gonna work the arms first. So I'm pushing really strongly. So it's all about my supporting limbs. I'm pushing really, really strongly through my right arm, so much so that my left hand just essentially lifts off the ground. Little rotation in the torso, totally fine. And I'm seeing if I can gently place my arm back down. So it's less about lifting, right? But it's me actually pushing as the impetus and then lowering back down. And so kind of building that, if this feels like a good place to stay, right, I'll kind of keep optioning up. So you could start to add maybe the knee lifting. And the biggest thing here is, can I, instead of collapsing down, can I keep pushing out of my supporting shoulder so much and supporting hip that I can lower with just as much integrity as I'm lifting? And your body will twist a little bit, so don't worry about staying square. Yeah. Kind of this idea of the limb that's actually the supporting limb is more important than the gesture limb. So if this still feels good, you could start to lift that foot up as well. So I'm pushing, and then maybe that foot comes up. Right, and then can I again? And timing, can I get my hand and my leg to come down relatively close together versus lowering the leg first? So I'm really challenging that whole side. Kind of fun. If you want a little more, you could also extend the limbs away at the top. Doesn't have to look like anything particular. We're just creating a little longer lever. Yeah, we do a lot of like contralateral, but we don't always do same sides. This is a fun one to play with. Once you've experimented for a little while, let's come onto the right hand as a base. So I'm going to turn my right shin so that I'm essentially prepped for sort of like a baby side plank kind of thing. I'm going to shift my weight over so that I can lift my leg. And I'm just going to do some leg lifts here. So floating up and down, right? Noticing that if the front of the shoulder head's kind of popping forward, can you push into the ground and wrap your rib? So your shoulder blade should feel pretty flush on your rib cage. Nice. And then just for fun, float that leg up. I'm going to reach with that leg and my top arm. I'm going to try to come up onto my fingertips, maybe balance for a moment, and then come up to kneeling. Whee, and then I'm going to come back down. And see if you can find a moment where you get that little balance. And we're obviously trying not to crash onto our hand. So it's good motivation. Floating this top leg up. Here's your outer hip that you just worked. So you're feeling it in both. Let's try 2 more like this. Nice little floating star situation here. When you lower on this last one, you can just take a nice big side stretch here. Nice work. Let's come back to hands and knees. We're going to do a little knee float. So neutral position in your spine. So crown and tailbone reaching in opposition. You're going to tuck your toes. I'm going to push out of my arms already without letting my pelvis tuck. I'm just going to float my knees like 2 inches off the ground. Nice little toe stretch. Taking some breaths here. Getting the core on without tucking the bum. Nice, for 3 and 2 and 1, gently lowering down. So we'll switch sides. So now I'm gonna go to my left hand and pivot on my left shin. I'm gonna switch just to face the front so I can see everybody. We're in that nice little side plank. If I'm too much in my hip, it's gonna be hard to lift that leg. So I'm gonna shift my weight just a little bit more into my arm, and then we'll take those leg lifts. And so same idea, can you really wrap that rib forward? And then think about your shoulder bridge. Can I press my bottom hip forward? You might wanna break there. We're gonna see if we can lift a little bit more. Pause on the next one. Let's do our little floats. So I'm gonna use that top leg. So here's that outer hip. I'm gonna see if I can hover for just a moment and then come up. And then float that leg up first before you come back down. Usually one side feels a little bit more natural. You might have to think about one a little more. The ballast of this leg lifting is gonna be really helpful. You can reach that leg away. It's gonna help slow down that landing. Yeah. And just a little like breath check reminder. Are you still breathing? Usually when we balance and concentrate, it kind of goes out the window. So like remind yourself again, yeah, I can breathe. On this next one, let's come all the way over. You can lower your foot, take a nice little side stretch. And then we'll do one more little balancy guy here. So we'll come back to hands and knees. If you wanna just hold, you can totally hold again. If you wanna make this a little more exciting, once you're up, without letting anything change, you can play with a little baby elbow tap here. But trying to stay in neutral versus tucking the pelvis, kind of the priority. So if that shift is pulling you into a tuck, then just hang out in that hold. And we'll stay for just a couple more rounds. Nice. Last one each side, or last breath. Lovely, and you can lower your knees down. Nice, nice, you guys. Cross your ankles. We're gonna do some full roll-ups. So, full roll-up with your ball. If you like to do your roll-ups with knee bend, or if you're working on your roll-ups, this is a really nice one because it's like your half roll back. I can use my hands, roll back down. I can use my hands again. So I'll exhale, grab these guys, squeeze and pull. If you're feeling groovy on roll-up and you don't feel like you need the bent legs, you can go straight. I'm gonna roll back. Same idea. I'm gonna reach my arms up, inhale and exhale to curl. If you want more excitement still, you can put your feet on the ball. And then instead of locking the knees down, squeeze your legs together. But it'll just give you some fun feedback if you do some banana action. Let's go for 6 roll-ups, and I'll show like all of them. You don't have to watch me, whatever your timing is. Nice, big stretch at the bottom. So if you're working on roll-up, the momentum of your arms with your exhale is really helpful. So kind of like reaching forward, almost like you're throwing. And that's where you can also grab the legs, right? If you're feeling pretty good in roll-up, a couple ways you can make this a little bit harder. Completely kill the momentum. So you're gonna roll up and you're 0 momentum at all. And you can always add a little bit more load. So fingers on shoulders is nice because it puts just a little bit more weight back behind you. And usually keeps the neck a little more chill. I'm gonna take 2 more here. You can also do arms by ears, right? Which is like pretty classic. Sometimes we do kind of weird stuff with the neck. So just keep an eye on your head position. Okay, and on this next one, I'm gonna roll all the way back down and we'll stay down. So we'll meet up down on the mat. And you can take a nice big starfish stretch. Okay, we'll do some more abs now. So grab your ball. So we're gonna do essentially bird dog, but on our back. So I'm coming back into that imprint position. So again, pelvis, I'm gently spilling that water towards my chest. It's my abs that are working versus my bum squeezing to do this. I'm gonna float one leg to tabletop and my second leg to tabletop. I'm gonna take my ball, I'm gonna press the ball into my thighs, thighs press backward. It's my core doing this, co-contraction. So the full exercise is opposite arm and leg. I'm gonna do a toe tap as my opposite arm reaches overhead. If this feels like too much, break it down. So just do the leg or just do the arm. So I'm giving you those options. You can take it, kind of halvesies or full version. We're gonna alternate sides because we don't have to count that way, which is awesome. So the idea is the more you press into the ball, the more support you're gonna have in keeping that imprint. We're trying not to let the weight shift. So if you notice the weight shifting towards one hip more than the other, see if you can neutralize that with the core. We're gonna do one more each way. And last one. Nice, okay. And then we're gonna lengthen that right leg all the way down. We're gonna keep the left leg up. It's my left hand pressing into my left thigh, balls in between. And take my right hand behind my head here. Ooh, actually, let's start. I lied. Bring your right leg to tabletop. This is gonna be a little more supportive version first. So we'll exhale to curl up. We're gonna keep this crunch the whole time. I'm pressing here, and I'm just gonna exhale to kick that leg out and inhale to bend it back in. So here's our version 1. So rule of thumb generally is lower and further away is gonna be a little harder. So if you need a little more support, maybe that leg just kicks out a little bit and comes back in. You want to take this into a harder version, you're going to keep that right leg long, lift it up to the ceiling, and lower it back down. Nice. Are you staying pretty stable? So you can kind of take a peek at those hips and notice if they're rocking or twisting. And we'll go for 3 more here. Crunching from those upper abs versus pulling on the neck. Last one. Nice. And you can lower your head and shoulders down here. Pop that ball in between your thighs. We're still in our imprint, right? Take breaks as you need. And reach the arms out to a T. So with legs and tabletop, we're gonna do a little twist. You're gonna let your top hip lift only so far as the opposite shoulder can stay on the mat. Squeeze with the bottom inner thigh and your outer hip. Core draws the legs back up to center. And then we'll switch sides. And you might find there's a little discrepancy from side to side. We're only gonna go so far to the side as obviously low back doesn't feel like it's wrenching. So if you get a little discomfort in that low back, keep your range a little bit smaller. And we'll do one more to the right here. You can connect in with outer hip and inner thigh as well as your core. One more to the left. And then take that ball out. You're gonna go right hand, right thigh. Bring your left hand behind your head. So we'll start with version 1. So you're gonna curl up here in my crunch. And then I'm just gonna exhale to kick that leg out and bend back in. Yeah, and just notice what's the rotation of my ball legs. I feel like it's doing pretty parallel. My hips are pretty equally weighted here. If you wanna make it harder, keep that left leg straight. And we'll curl up and down. Just keep that pressure between the right thigh and the right arm. Nice. Upper abs, little reminder here as you get a little tired. We'll go for 3 and 2 and 1. Nice. You can keep your legs up again, rest as you need. We're gonna take the legs together and we're gonna hold on to that ball. We're gonna do a little double leg stretch. So I'm gonna reach my arms, head's gonna stay down the whole time. Still an imprint. I'm gonna reach my arms overhead as my legs reach out. And then I'm gonna come back in. So basically everything goes away from center and everything comes back in. So back position is the most important. So if you need to take a little break, just work the arms, keep the legs in tabletop. You're still gonna get some work here. Go for 2 more. On the next one, you're gonna keep your legs in tabletop. Reach the arms overhead to prepare. So we're gonna inhale. As we exhale, we're gonna curl up into a crunch and reach the ball over our knees towards our shins, and then lower back down. Right, you could do this with your legs down on the ground. You could also do this with your legs out on the diagonal if you wanted more work. The legs are just gonna stay stable. Exhaling. Now, as you lower back down, are you starting to lose your imprint? Right, so once we kind of get into more endurance, how's the back when we're coming out of positions? Nice, one more like this. Then our last little thing in this series, we're gonna curl up and stay. We're gonna do a little side to side. So I'm gonna twist my ball. One hand comes on top, one hand on bottom. Inhale and exhale, and then just pivot the arms as you switch. Nice. And then can you stay up and over? So versus like leaning and resting on your shoulder, see if you can keep that shoulder up. And we're gonna go for about 4 more here. Exhaling to twist for 3 and 2 and 1. And then you can roll all the way back down. Nice, you can pull your knees apart. Take a couple little rocks from side to side. Little ab break here. Let's roll onto our side again. Go to the second side that you did for glutes if you remember. So I'm gonna roll to my right side, but I'll flip around here. We're gonna do another round of glutes. You get your ball. You're gonna put your ball in between your ankles and lengthen all the way down in one long line. So we're gonna do a little leg float. So I'm gonna go palm down. You don't need it if you're not gonna lift the upper body. You could change your arm position, but you'll probably want it down if you're gonna lift. So we're gonna squeeze the ball with outer hips and inner thighs, cores on, and we're just gonna float the legs up and then lower back down. So this is kind of version 1. If you wanna make it more exciting, you can take your top arm up, my bottom palm's down, and I can press up as I float and come back down. This is just the fancier version. They're both good. If you need to pad your hip, feel free to fold your mat if it doesn't feel so comfy. Nice. And then if your feet want to do kind of some weird tickling stuff to hold the ball, try to flex your feet instead, because that'll help keep those inner thighs and outer hips on. Go for 2 more. Yay, obliques. 1 more. All right, and then you can take that ball, you're gonna rest your top knee on it and then flex that bottom leg. And this is just kind of to support it and get your leg out of the way. We're gonna flex the bottom leg and we're gonna do some little inner thigh lifts. Nice. Yeah, kind of same idea. If the knee wants to bend or the foot tries to do anything kind of fancy, see if you can just flex it and keep it nice and stable and neutral here. 1 more like this. And then you can take that ball, just kind of get it out of the way. You can hold it in front of your chest. Take the top leg long, you're gonna stack it. We're gonna do some rainbows. So you'll float your top foot up. You're gonna turn the leg in and tap the toe down. And then make a little rainbow and rotate the leg, tap the heel back. And your rainbow is about like mat-ish width. Yeah, nice. So kind of the same as the earlier exercise. How's the trunk? So if we're doing a lot of twisting, see if you can really stabilize and not counter twist at the leg. And then notice that it's your hip that's doing the work versus your toes or your feet. Yeah, 1 more each way. Wee, okay, take that ball, same side. We're gonna pop it under our waist. So for this one, try to measure so that you're kind of right in the center of the ball. It'll make it a little bit easier to balance. My bottom leg's bent, my top leg is flexed and parallel, so I've got that glute on. And you can either do, again, kind of holding the head here with a bent elbow, or you can go palm up and do a long arm. So try both if you're not sure what you prefer. We're gonna do a little oblique reach. So for more support, fingertips can stay down. And for a little less, you can reach your fingers towards your hip. You're just gonna come up to a little hover. And I'm just plugging to neutral, so it's not super, super big. And then lengthening back down. Easy to arch in this one, so just keep an eye on if you're arching through that low back. Nice, supporting the head. And if it's really hard and you've not done this one before, you can totally do hands down. If the ball's too low, it might be a little harder, so find it a little bit higher if you need more support. We'll do 1 more like this. And then you can take that top arm up and you can just relax all the way over, nice big side stretch. Nice. And then we'll either roll over or I'm gonna do like a little swing around so I can watch you guys. You do all of that to the second side. So start with that ball in between your ankles, flex your feet here, whatever's most comfortable for your head. And then we're gonna start with a little leg lift. So fingers down, right? It's gonna be a little more supportive, good for the nervous system too, if it's like a trust thing. If you want more, that top palm on the ground is going to be down, arm's going to be up, and then I'm going to press as I lift those legs. Press and reach. And then we're trying our best, right? Pretty hard. If you imagine you're in between two panes of glass as you lift, you're trying not to banana. So if you start to rotate into more of like a flexed teaser position, you can flatten it out just a little bit more. And we'll try two more like this. Last one. Wee. All right. Pull that ball up. You're just going to rest your top knee on it. We'll do some little inner thigh lifts here. So you're going to flex through that bottom foot. Nice straight leg here. And then from the inner thigh, just floating up. I didn't mention this on the other side, but if the leg kind of rotates or spirals, see if you can keep it just lifting and lowering without twisting at all as you lift and lower. And then little breath check again, just checking in. Is your jaw helping you lift your leg? Shoulders, if you can relax those. And go for 3. And 2. And 1. You can ditch that ball for a moment if you just want to hold it. We'll bring the top leg stacked over the bottom leg and flex that top foot. We're going to do these rainbows on this side. So you're going to float that leg up. You're going to turn the leg in and tap the toes down towards the front. And then lift the leg up and you're going to rotate it out, tap the heel back. So you're kind of using your supporting leg as sort of the middle ground. Think about yoga mat width. And then as much as possible, trying to keep your trunk square to the front. So hips, ribs, and shoulders are like car headlights. So it's okay if you don't actually make contact with the ground in one rotation. Nice, and yep, and it's the whole thigh bone rotating here. And let's do one more each way. And take a little rest. Okay, last little oblique guy on this side. So put the ball underneath the waist. And then try to find center when you lay over the ball. Go bent arm or long on the bottom, and then that top leg. So here's where the hip is going to help you, right? So as you lift up, whether you have your fingers down or your arms by your hips, the more you can reach through that heel and get your outer hip on, you get a little bit more support. Again, if the ball's too low, it's going to be a lot harder because you're going to have a little more lever towards the upper body versus the legs. Yeah, I was going to go a little bit higher with the ball. That can help. You want it more at your waist than your hip. And we're just plugging into neutral, so not super far to go. Think about those ribs just sliding towards those hips. Go for 2 more here, supporting the head. And then you can sweep that top arm up and over and take a nice little stretch. Nice. Okay, so roll onto your front again. We're gonna do a little ball extension. So for this one, you can keep it smaller. You can make it a little bigger. Go legs a little bit wider. Rotation that feels comfortable to you. Usually external is kind of nice. We're gonna do prayer emoji hands. And we're gonna put them on our ball. I kind of go more towards like wrist, so it's a little more supported. And I'm just plugging and unplugging the shoulders with the ball. So as I push away, my shoulders unplug, come towards my ears. As I draw the ball back, I get that nice plug. I'm going to add a little extension. So I'm going to drag the ball to me and start to extend my chest. Maybe I keep my floating ribs down and this is as high as I go. My glutes are on, my core is on to support, and then I'll lengthen back down. If you want to take this bigger, and it feels okay, then you can take this into more of like your full swan dive position. Definitely bum is on, core is on, the ribs have to lengthen a little, so try not to pinch those guys. We'll unplug and replug a couple times. I love an inhale to lift. If exhale feels more supportive, feel free to take an exhale here. And if the elbows like to bend a lot, everyone's looking really good. If it's kind of like here, which is pretty hard to control. So if you can lengthen those arms, we don't want to lock, but we want the shoulders to be in charge. And then after this last one, let's take our hands back by our sides here. Let's push back and take a little child's pose. If you want to add a side stretch to this one, you can walk the hands over and then push in opposition. See if you can rest your head down to the mat. If not, you can always use your opposite hand as a bit of a cushion here. And then let's try the other side. We'll meet back up here on our bums. We'll just do a little hip mobility kind of stuff too. So coming back to those windshield wipers that we played with earlier, we're gonna go to one side. So let's say legs are to the, feet are to the right, knees are to the left. And we're just gonna do a little side bend. So you're just gonna sweep up and over, take a couple of these guys back and forth. You can grab onto like shin or ankle, inside bend the other way. You can always extend the leg a little more if it's not super comfortable on the knee. Play with your flexion. And we'll just do one more like this. We'll do some more hip torture. Nice. So with the same leg position, you're gonna rotate your torso to the left. Now you can always use your hands on the ground. So this is totally fine. Maybe eventually we don't need the hands, but you're just gonna try to rotate that back leg and see if you can lift your foot up. And so maybe pushing into the ground gives me a little bit more support to lift that leg. Try about 6 of these. If your leg totally cramps or your hip cramps, that's normal. Probably we don't do this move a lot, right? And then once you've tried that, try floating the whole leg up. So again, maybe you need to use the hands to float the leg up, and that's okay. Maybe eventually we get to where we don't need the hands. You can float the knee and the foot. Try about 6 of those. Yeah, it's like, when's the last time you did this move, right? Never, probably. And then you can lengthen that leg out, rotate it out, give it a little shake. Whee! Let's try the other side. So we'll go knees to the right, feet to the left, and start with just a nice easy mermaid from side to side, nice big side stretch. You can always play with rotating forward or back, so that's calling to you. And if you're like, ooh, this feels really nice, it's totally freedom of choice. Side bend stretch. We'll just do one more like this. And when you finish your last one to your shin, we'll meet up, we'll rotate over our front leg, so right leg. Maybe you need to press for these. You're gonna see, can I rotate internally that back leg from the thigh, right? So that's where that rotation's happening. Pushing into the ground, I'm gonna go for 6. You might feel like there's a really big difference from side to side. Like maybe your brain's like, what? Feel free to touch the body part. Sometimes like having tactile feedback can be helpful because it can tell our brain kind of like, all right, where is this coming from? Pushing down, give a little bit more feedback here. And then once you've done 6, we're gonna try to lift the whole leg. So again, maybe you need to lean and push to lift it, start, and then eventually maybe we get to a place where we can just lift it. But use that support to learn kind of how to do it nice first, yeah. And we'll only do 6 of these because they're kind of mean. And we did a lot of internal rotation already. When you finish your last one, you can lengthen that leg out. Wee, give it a little moment. So a little teaser, because we still have time for more abs. Little teaser challenge. So for teaser, ball in between the thighs can be nice. So this is still our C-curve position, right? So it's gonna be a little different depending on kind of our bony structure, but I'm gonna roll back just like my half back position. We did those leg lifts, and I'm gonna bring my legs up, right? So this would be like, number 1, can I stay here? Number 2 would be, can I let go of my arms? If you wanted to challenge, depending on how hip flexors is feeling, you could do straight legs. So just like isometric hold, tons of work, right? Just being here. We'll hold for just a couple more breaths. Yeah. Nice, and you can bend your legs, rock forward. take that ball out. We're gonna do a little reverse table. If reverse table doesn't feel good in your arms, you could always just shoulder bridge again. So we'll go fingers some span of out, so to the side or back. You're gonna roll your shoulders up and back, and then push through your feet or shoulders already, right? So my chest is already lifted, and then I'm gonna push to lift. So here I'm trying to put a lot of the work into my glutes and hamstrings. Just easy breath. Notice if the head wants to hang back, just bring it forward a little bit. And then when we lower, push out of your arms a little bit more and lower nice and slowly. Yeah. Okay, so now we make the teaser a little more exciting. So options, we can do teaser, kind of show both, where we can keep the hands and we're rolling back just like a little bit and then we're curling back up. So I'm never coming all the way down. Or you could take it to where you're gonna come all the way down to the mat and come all the way back up. If this is feeling really good, ditch the hands. So then I can keep my hands. Usually if we're kind of bridging the gap, hands on the way up can be nice. And then you can like release on the way down. Let's go for like, let's do 8. That seems like a nice number. So any variation. So either just working literally that slight rollback and coming back up. So just the tip of the pelvis and using the arms, which is like, I think almost harder in a way. Or taking it all the way down, and you can play with both, right? So I'm teaching my glutes and hamstrings on the way up to work against my arms to help me come back up again. We'll say I'm about halfway. When you finish your 8, we'll say Scout's honor. You can lie all the way down. Nice. Right, and I feel like that's probably 8. You can take yourself all the way down onto the mat and then take that ball out. You're gonna lengthen your left leg long, draw your right thigh towards your chest. You're gonna clasp your hands behind the thigh. We're gonna do a couple knee stretches, knee pumps. So I'm flexing my right foot and I'm gonna try to kick my heel to the ceiling. And the idea is it doesn't matter if my leg is straight, but we're gonna try to pull the thigh as close and pin it with our arms. If you need more support in the low back, you can always bend that supporting leg. So if it's a little too much there, feel free to draw that in. We're just actively extending that leg towards the ceiling and then bending back down. If you wanna play with pointing the foot, right, changing up that stretch a little bit. Maybe do some ankle circles, some toe crunching. And then we'll take that leg, we're gonna cross it over. So I'm gonna let my right leg stay relatively tabletop-ish. If you wanna extend the leg at the bottom and then sweep that right arm in opposition. If you feel like you can't get the shoulder down, you can sort of start to scoot your shoulder blades flat towards the mat. So the chest can rotate to the ceiling. We'll take a couple breaths in the sky. Feel free to play with the arm. If you want to reach it a little higher, maybe bend that elbow at 90 degrees to get more of a pec stretch. And we're gonna roll back onto your back, but hook your right foot onto your left thigh. So now we're in this figure 4 shape. And then reach your arms out to a T. So you can either keep it twisty with that foot on the ground where you're just gonna go from side to side, maybe pausing if it feels nice on one side to breathe. You can also draw your legs to tabletop and do the same thing. So adding some movement to your figure 4, kind of need to work a little bit in it. If one of those directions feels good, and the twist, and you wanna stay for a breath or two. And then once your legs are back to center, draw them up to tabletop if they aren't already. So that right leg's still on top. You're gonna cross the right thigh all the way over. So my thighs are stacked like I'm sitting in a chair. And then you can grab your shins or your ankles and draw the legs towards your chest as you press your tailbone down. It's a nice little stretcher. If this isn't doing a ton and you prefer the figure 4, you can always go back to that. And then we'll uncross the legs. Reach your right leg down long, clasp your hands behind your left thigh, and we'll go into some knee pumps on the opposite side. So again, it's more like, can you draw your thigh up first? And then whether the knee actually straightens or not such a big deal. But we'll take a couple of those actively reaching through the heel. Maybe playing with a point to mix up the stretch a bit here. Some ankle circles, toe crunches. And then we'll take that left leg, we'll cross it all the way over. And again, if extending it at the bottom feels nice, you're more than welcome to. See if you can shift your shoulder blades onto the ground, ribs to the ceiling, maybe the head turns, take a couple breaths in this side. Like imagining there's an inner tube in between my ribs and my hips. And I'm trying to breathe into that tube. And then when you roll onto your back, you're gonna hook your left foot over that right thigh. Arms can come back out to a T, and then your sort of choice, legs down for your twists. Or if you wanna draw the legs to tabletop for just a little deeper stretch. And you might find you want something different from side to side. It's totally fine. Maybe pausing on one side, breathing into that twist if it feels good. And then we'll cross the left leg all the way over the right. So thighs are stacked like you're sitting cross-legged in a chair. And then you can grab onto shins or ankles and then draw those legs towards your chest as you press your tailbone down. And then we'll uncross here. So just one more pose, whether you want to do like a happy baby or one more shoulder bridge, or maybe you just want to hug your legs into your chest or reach your legs to the ceiling. Find one more even pose here, or one more if we didn't do it and you're like, oh, I really wanted to do that one. And then just think about kind of energetically how you want to exit. So maybe you want to roll to the side or take a really nice controlled roll up, or maybe kind of keep it energized. You could do a couple rock and rolls to come up, poor man's massage, COVID massage. Yeah, nice. And I'll leave you there because the clock says it's time. So no more torture. Thanks for coming, you guys. Yeah. Thank you.